Don't worry about it.
Wish we could use the bumpers.
You don't want the bumpers. Life doesn't give you bumpers.
Life may not give you bumpers, but a new book is smoothing out the rough edges with a little bit of advice. Thanks to the man you just heard, Ethan Hawke, in his critically acclaimed movie Boyhood. In his new book, Rules for a Night, the four-time Academy Award nominee shares some qualities that help make life meaningful. It's under the guise of fiction, starting off as a letter from a knight to his children and ending in the full list of traits every good knight should possess. And we are so pleased to welcome Ethan Hawke into the studio this morning. Thanks for coming in. It's the cutest little book.
Yeah.
It's really little and it's lovely. But where did you come up with the idea to write about a knight searching for his place?
I have no idea, really. The truth is, this started, it's a tale that grew in the telling. This started probably 7 years ago or something as, well, I'll just answer honestly, which is that my wife was reading a book about step-parenting and about, you know, it's very hard to be a stepmother. And, and we were trying to, this book was talking about the value of rules and that people say that kids don't like rules and everything. But in fact, especially when it's difficult for kids from going from one house to another house, and at one house there's a certain set of rules and another.
Right, I mean, different.
And what this book was saying is basically there can be lots of different rules, lots of different ways to do things, just as long as you're consistent and clear. And so my wife and I started doing this riff about what are the rules? What do we believe in? You know, and it started out kind of as a joke, as 7 rules about what we thought were the principles of the household, you know. And then she started doing these drawings for him, and then it started out really for my eldest as Rules for a Princess. Yeah. And this is really a long answer now, but my son wasn't into princesses, you know, so then it turned into Rules for a Night. And slowly it just grew in the telling until this year my oldest is graduating and we just decided to publish it.
It's just, and as you mentioned, your wife does the illustrations. The illustrations are all birds and beautiful. And in this particular one, well, I've opened it at equality, but there's so many of these lessons: honesty, friendship, faith, discipline, for which there's an illustration that your wife's done as well. So the book is, in essence, about a family and the rules of a family and sharing. And your book is actually a family-inspired project.
This is our little, I don't know what even to call it. It's just it was our little project. And, you know, basically I feel much more like the editor than a author. What's interesting about the book has been culled from just what I've been reading about parenthood for the last 10 years, you know, about how do you have a conversation with your kid about the importance of honesty? What is, you know, and as you get teenagers, you know, what is chivalry, right? You know, what does it mean to be a knight? What does it mean to be a lady? What do we mean when we say virtue? You know, what is all that stuff? And it's hard to talk about. And I don't have a real job, so you know, I'm an actor, and so I just this is a fun project for me to work on.
And and speaking of your other jobs and the things that you find, it's interesting because with all the projects that you have on the go all the time, and I mean, you look at IMDb, it takes you 5 minutes to scroll through all the stuff that it's, you know, that's in the works right now, but you still try to make sure that you carve out your family time, that you're not away from those kids for long.
Well, anybody who's a parent who wants to have a career struggles with that balance.
Well, especially acting, where you can be away for a long time.
It's a drag. I never knew when I was going to drama school and I was really chasing this dream how hard it would be to create a family from this vantage point. I mean, I don't mean to be on my soapbox complaining. It's just challenging because, I mean, my brother's in the military. That's challenging too. Every job has its pros and cons, but you know, to have a viable film career, you're going to be away from home a lot.
And what about, because I was reading that potentially Maya might travel down that she's your eldest.
She's my oldest, yeah.
That may want to be more involved in acting.
We'll see. Anybody who has a 17-year-old knows that they're shifting their direction. Sure. But she's clearly an artist. I mean, how she chooses to manifest it, time will tell. But the kid is awesome and has a, you know, bright future, and it's fun to be her parent.
When you look at the films you've done, and many, as I mentioned, in the works already that we're going to be seeing coming out, is it ever possible to look at a body of work like that and choose a favorite role, a favorite character?
It's possible to have favorite experiences. Like, there's no way for an experience to top Dead Poets Society for me.
Right.
Because it changed my life. You know, I was just a kid and I didn't know what to do with my life, and all of a sudden the success of this movie was tremendous. the ethics behind that movie were special. Training Day is an important
Yes.
movie to me. Boyhood's an important movie to me because I shot it for 12 years.
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
amazing.
original, it's so unique. The whole Before trilogy are movies that I wrote. So those are important. You know, there's movies that
For
are
different reasons.
Yeah, they all have a different reason.
Let me ask you about, I mean, you've spent a lot of time in Canada, in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
you spent a lot of time on our East Coast, and not so long ago, you were speaking out on behalf of Micmac,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they want to call for a moratorium on oil exploration
Yeah,
out there, and
well-
you showed up to help out.
Well, they're neighbors of mine. You know, I have a place up in Nova Scotia, and there is a Micmac res near my house, and they contacted me and made me aware of what was happening in the Gulf of St. Lawrence and their desire to protect it. And, you know, they were an impressive group of people, and I really like how they're using their indigenous rights to help us all. I mean, you know, it's one
Yeah.
thing, you want to help everybody, you take care of the water. So I respected those guys a lot, and I was happy to kind of just walk behind them.
It was so poignant because you said, you know, you're not parachuting in as somebody to speak for you, speak on behalf as a neighbor and
Yeah.
somebody's on the land, and it was so poignant when you said that they've been great caretakers.
Well, they have, and you know, I really wanted my kids to see me doing that because that piece of property, with any luck, will be theirs, and the legacy of taking care of that land and that water will fall to them. You know.
Wow. It's such a pleasure to be able to
Yeah.
just grab a couple of minutes of your time. You said the book
Yes.
and the movie, and there was that I wanted to ask, but thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me on your program.
Congratulations. You'll find Rules for a Night. That'll be on our iBooks page. Head to itunes.com/CanadaAM.